My friend, listen to me now, because what I'm about to say could change your life. Your future, your peace, your success, and even your connection with God depend on this truth: your mind is a battlefield. The most important war you will ever fight is not with your enemies, not with people who have wronged you, not with the world outside, but with your very own thoughts. Your mind is the gate to your soul, and if you don't learn to control your thoughts will control you. And when that happens, the enemy doesn't even have to attack you from the outside, because you are already defeated from within. I speak to you now with urgency because we are living in a time when the mind is under relentless assault. From every screen, every word, every situation, thoughts are being planted. You don't even realize it, but your thoughts are shaping your reality. You think a thought, and that thought becomes a feeling. That feeling becomes a decision. That decision becomes a habit. And that habit becomes your life. But it all started with a single thought. And if that thought was not from God, then where did it come from? My friend, understand this: not every thought that enters your mind is yours. You must hear me loud and clear. Just because a thought appears in your head doesn't mean it belongs to you. Some thoughts are planted by doubt. Some are planted by fear. Some are sent by those who wish to see you fail. And some are even sent by unseen forces that want to destroy everything God is trying to build in your life. But here's the truth: God has given you the power to choose. You can't always control what thoughts come to your mind, but you can control what thoughts you allow to stay. Many people are prisoners, not because they are behind bars, but because they are chained by their own minds. They wake up with worry. They go to bed with anxiety. They replay every failure, every insult, every mistake. They torment themselves with what ifs and should haves. But I tell you, God did not design your mind to be a dungeon of regret. God designed your mind to be a garden of faith. And you must learn to protect it with everything you have. Do you know why so many people can't move forward in life? Because they've allowed negative thoughts to dig deep roots in their mind. A single seed of self-doubt, watered with fear, can grow into a tree that blocks out the light of God's truth. And when the light is blocked, you begin to forget who you are. You begin to believe you are weak. You begin to believe that your situation is hopeless. You begin to believe that God has forgotten you. But let me tell you something: God has never forgotten you. It is not God who left your side. It is your thoughts that led you away from Him. When God created you, He placed within you a power so great that no force on earth can stop you when you align your thoughts with His will. That is why the battle for your thoughts is so fierce, because your thoughts determine your direction. If the enemy can poison your thoughts, he can destroy your purpose. But if you can align your thoughts with God, there is no mountain you cannot climb, no obstacle you cannot overcome, no pain you cannot heal from, because God becomes your strength and your thoughts become your weapons. You must train your mind to reject what doesn't come from God. If a thought brings fear, it is not from God. If a thought brings confusion, it is not from God. If a thought makes you feel worthless, unloved, forgotten, it is a lie, and you must cast it out like a disease. You must replace that lie with God's truth. And God's truth says you are chosen. God's truth says you are strong. God's truth says you have a purpose, and your life is not an accident. You were created by design for a reason. And if God gave you life, He gave you the mind to protect it. Let me tell you something bold. What you feed your mind becomes your reality. If you constantly feed it garbage, negativity, hopelessness, comparison, and lies, then your life will reflect exactly that. But if you feed your mind faith, strength, wisdom, gratitude, discipline, and the remembrance of God, then you will rise. You will walk through storms with peace. You will face your enemies with courage. You will rest at night, knowing that the same God who brought you through yesterday will carry you through tomorrow. You've got to stop letting your thoughts run wild. A wild mind is a dangerous mind. A wild mind will have you fearing things that haven't even happened. A wild mind will have you building walls between you and the very people who love you. A wild mind will keep you stuck in the past, afraid of the future, and blind to the blessings in the present. But when you train your thoughts, when you discipline your mind, when you place God at the center of your thinking, everything changes. Discipline your mind like a soldier disciplines his weapon. Don't entertain every thought. Don't let your emotions run the show. Emotions come and go, but truth remains. God remains. And the truth is this: you are not your thoughts. You are what you choose to do with them. When a thought comes that does not align with what God has spoken over your life, cast it down immediately. Speak against it. Don't sit with it. Don't entertain it. Don't nurse it. Reject it with the authority God has placed inside of you. Some of you are waiting for your life to change, but God is waiting for your thinking to change. You want new blessings, but your mind is stuck in old patterns. You want peace, but your thoughts are full of war. You want strength, but your thoughts tell you you're weak. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to live like this. You can rise, you can break free, you can be renewed. But the change doesn't start outside, it starts within. The moment you say, no more. I will not allow my thoughts to rule me. I will not be a slave to fear. I will not be driven by what ifs. I will think with the mind God gave me. I will think thoughts of peace, strength, purpose, and power. I will fill my mind with truth. I will guard my thoughts like a fortress. I will not let doubt enter these gates ever again. That is the moment your life begins to shift. You have to be ruthless with your thoughts. Let me say that again. You have to be ruthless with your thoughts. Don't give fear a second to breathe. Don't give anxiety a corner to hide in. Don't give regret a seat at your table. Your mind is holy ground. Don't let it be trampled by lies. Guard it. Strengthen it. Train it. And how do you do that? By feeding it with what comes from God. Speak remembrance every morning. Speak gratitude every night. When a negative thought enters your mind, respond with faith. When your mind says, you can't, answer back with, God can. When your mind says, you're not enough, respond with, God is more than enough, and I am with Him. My friend, there is no greater power than the mind that is fixed on God. A mind filled with God's remembrance is unshakable. It doesn't mean you won't face problems, but it means the problems won't face you the same way, because you'll have the thoughts of a warrior. You'll have the mind of one who walks with God. And when your thoughts align with His truth, even in the darkest hour, you will feel peace. Even in chaos, you will remain calm. Even in loss, you will not lose your purpose, because your mind will not be shaken by what is seen. It will be anchored in what is eternal. Some people will think you're strange. Some will not understand the peace you carry, the strength you walk in, the way you do not panic like everyone else. That's okay. Let them wonder, because what they don't know is that you are not controlled by circumstances, you are led by truth, you are not ruled by fear, you are rooted in faith, you are not a product of your environment, you are a product of your connection with God, and your thoughts are no longer random. They are intentional. They are shaped by divine wisdom, not by the noise of the world. Let me speak clearly to your heart now. Controlling your thoughts is not just a mental practice, it is a spiritual discipline. It is an act of worship. It is an act of protection. It is an act of obedience. Because every time you choose to align your thoughts with what is right, noble, peaceful, and strong, you are honoring the one who created your mind in the first place. You are saying to God, I trust you with my thoughts. I will not let my mind wander into places you never called me to go. And let me tell you, the more you practice this, the stronger you will become. Just like muscles grow with repetition, your mind becomes stronger each time you choose right thinking over reckless thinking. Each time you reject a lie, you build a wall of protection. Each time you feed your mind with truth, You plant seeds that will grow into peace. And the more you do this, the more you will walk in clarity. You will make better decisions. You will speak with more confidence. You will attract peace instead of drama. You will feel lighter because your thoughts will no longer weigh you down. This is the life God wants for you. Not a life of torment, not a life of confusion, but a life of discipline, strength, peace, and clarity. And it starts by mastering the one thing you truly have power over, your thoughts. And I say to you now, with every fiber of urgency in my soul, if you do not take dominion over your thoughts will take dominion over you. Your mind is not a playground, it is a battlefield. And you cannot afford to be casual on a battlefield. You must wake up every day with your mind armed, not just with knowledge, but with remembrance. Remembrance of God, remembrance of who you are and who He created you to be. Some of you listening have been walking around with thoughts that were never meant to live in your mind. You've been babysitting fears that are not from God. You've been hosting anxiety like it's a permanent guest. You've been allowing memories of past mistakes to haunt your present peace. And the tragedy is not what happened to you. It's that you allowed what happened to you to become your identity. But hear this loud and clear. God never defined you by your past. God defines you by your potential. And your potential cannot come alive until your thinking comes into alignment with His divine truth. You cannot rise while your thoughts remain low. You cannot expect a life of power while your mind is filled with weakness. You cannot walk in the strength of God while your thoughts kneel at the feet of fear. So it is time. It is time to evict every lie. Time to silence every voice in your mind that tells you that you are broken, that you are not enough, that you have nothing left to offer. Those voices are not from God, and anything that is not from God must go. Let me tell you something most people will never say. There is a war going on inside you, and your mind is the throne. Whoever wins that war becomes the ruler of your life. If you let fear win, fear rules. If you let shame win, shame rules. But if you let God's truth win, then peace rules, strength rules, clarity rules, and your life begins to reflect the order and the power of God Himself. That is not wishful thinking. That is divine order. Let's go even deeper. Do you know what the real danger is? The danger is not the storm outside your house. The real danger is when the storm gets inside your mind. That's when you lose sleep. That's when you start second-guessing everything. That's when you turn blessings into burdens and opportunities into threats. But if your mind is anchored in God, then even in the middle of the storm, you will be still. Even when the waves crash, your thoughts will not be tossed around. Because peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is the presence of God in your thoughts. And that's what God wants from you, not just for you to believe in Him in theory, but for your thoughts to become a temple where He dwells. A sanctuary of remembrance, a fortress of faith, a place where doubt cannot breathe and fear cannot take root. Imagine a mind so full of God that there is no room left for insecurity. Imagine a mind so trained in discipline that negativity dies before it can take hold. That kind of mind is not just possible, it is your calling. But let me be clear, it doesn't happen by accident. You must be deliberate. You must be intentional. You must make your mind a sacred space. Just as you clean your house, you must clean your thoughts. Just as you lock your doors at night, you must lock out thoughts that come to rob you of your peace. Some of you are too open with your mind. You let anyone speak into it. You watch anything. You scroll endlessly. And without knowing, you are letting your enemies decorate the walls of your thoughts. That's why your mind feels so cluttered. That's why peace feels so fodder. That's why focus has become a stranger. But today is the day you take it back. You take back the gate of your mind. You take back your right to decide what enters and what must be cast out. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every voice deserves your agreement. And not every memory deserves a seat in your future. You must learn to evict what God never sent. There is something sacred about a mind filled with remembrance of God. Because when your thoughts are anchored in Him, everything changes. Your decisions become wiser. Your relationships become clearer. Your reactions become calmer. Your dreams become bolder. Your self-worth no longer depends on opinions but on divine truth. You are no longer moved by flattery or wounded by insults, because your thoughts are not built on sand. They are built on the unshakable foundation of your Creator's voice. You were never meant to live at the mercy of your emotions. You were never created to be led by impulse or paralyzed by fear. You were formed by God with intention, with excellence, and with power. That power begins with your thoughts. The same God who created the universe gave you the ability to shape your inner world by how you think. And when your thoughts become aligned with that divine wisdom, you no longer see life the same way. You don't just react, you respond. You don't just survive, you lead. You don't just dream, you build. Because now you are walking with a sound mind, a God-filled mind. Don't you know how valuable that is? A sound mind is not common, it is a gift. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and deception, a mind that remembers God is a rare treasure. It is a light in the darkness. It is peace in the middle of confusion. It is power that cannot be explained by this world. And if you have that mind, if you train that mind, no darkness can overpower you. But you must commit. You must make a choice. You must say, I will not be passive. I will no longer let my thoughts drift like a ship without an anchor. I will fight for clarity. I will fight for peace. I will fight for purity in my thinking, because I know that my destiny is tied to what I think. And I will no longer allow my thoughts to be poisoned by fear or tainted by the past. I will fill my mind with light. I will fill it with purpose. I will fill it with God. Every day, your mind is either building your future or breaking it. And the most dangerous thing is when you don't even realize what you're letting in. That's why you must become conscious of what you're feeding your thoughts. Every word you read, every conversation you entertain, every image you see, they are either feeding your faith or starving it. And if something starves your faith, you must cut it off. Not tomorrow. Today, if it clouds your thoughts, it is stealing from your destiny. If it weakens your confidence in God, it is too expensive to keep. You were not meant to think like everyone else. You were meant to rise above. You were meant to see with different eyes, to think with a different mind, to walk with a different energy. And that difference begins when God becomes the center of your thoughts, not just sometimes, not just when things go wrong, but always. Continually, consistently. Even when life is good, even when everything feels right, still God remains your focus. Because let me tell you something, peace is not found when the storm ends. Peace is found when God becomes your atmosphere. When God is the air you think with, the space your thoughts breathe in, the foundation under every decision. That is when peace begins to reign. That is when strength begins to grow. That is when clarity becomes your portion and confusion dies. So I urge you now, with everything in me, begin today. Train your thoughts. Examine your thinking. Cleanse your mental habits. And submit your mind back to the one who created it. He knows what you need. He knows what you're capable of. And He will strengthen you as you discipline your thoughts to reflect His greatness. The world may be filled with chaos, but you will walk in order. The world may panic, but your thoughts will rest in power. Others may fall into despair, but you will rise with quiet confidence because you know who holds your mind. And when God holds your mind, there is no force in existence that can shake you from your purpose. And now hear this deeply, my friend, not with your ears, but with your spirit. Your thoughts are sacred territory. The mind is not a place for confusion, corruption, or compromise. It is a field planted by the hands of God, intended to bear fruit that honors His name. But the question is, who is tending that field? Who is watering it? What kind of seeds are being sown each day through the words you hear, the voices you allow, the things you absorb in silence? We live in a generation that glorifies noise, constant input, endless opinions, flashing lights, and digital distractions. People scroll their lives away, filling their minds with voices that do not care for their soul. And yet they wonder why their peace has vanished. They wonder why they feel empty when the screen turns off. They wonder why, despite everything they chase, nothing satisfies. But how can you walk in peace if your thoughts are being shaped by what does not honor God? Let me say it plainly, what you allow to enter your mind has the power to shape your destiny. A distracted mind becomes a directionless life. A polluted mind becomes a poisoned heart. You cannot keep feeding your soul things that drain your spirit and expect to walk in the power God created you to carry. You must be bold enough to say, "No, I choose what enters my mind. I choose to guard the gates of my thoughts like a warrior protecting a king's palace." Because your thoughts are the royal court where decisions are made, and the king you serve deserves a clean temple. Let me go further. You don't just need to control your thoughts during your hardest days. You especially need to do it in your easiest days. When things are calm, when life is smooth, when your prayers seem answered, that is when the mind becomes most vulnerable. That is when you are tempted to let down your guard. That is when pride creeps in and whispers, "You did this." That is when self-reliance replaces reliance on God. And the moment you allow your thoughts to forget the source of your strength, that is the moment decline begins. You see, the enemy does not only attack through crisis, he attacks through comfort, through complacency, through distraction. He doesn't always need to destroy you. Sometimes he only needs to detour you, and he does it with a thought, just one thought. One seed of laziness, one whisper of, "You've done enough," one echo of, "You're not like them." And before you know it, your thoughts have shifted from gratitude to entitlement, from surrender to self-glory. And when the mind strays, the soul follows. But those who walk with God must be vigilant in thought, every day, every hour, even in silence, especially in silence. Because your real life is not what you show the world, it's what happens in the theater of your mind when no one is watching. The true you is not in your appearance, your reputation, or your achievements. The true you is found in your thought life. If God were to display every thought you've entertained this week, would it reflect peace? Would it reflect worship? Would it reflect a heart that longs to please God, even in private? It's not enough to say you love God. Your thoughts must love Him too. Your inner dialogue must honor Him. Your imagination must reflect purity, hope, discipline, and purpose. And you cannot fake that. You cannot manipulate your way into a sound mind. You must cultivate it daily, deliberately, prayerfully. Like a fire that must be kept burning, your thoughts must be kept lit with the flame of God's remembrance. The moment you let it die, darkness creeps in. And let me tell you something powerful. What you meditate on is what multiplies in your life. If you meditate on pain, pain will grow. If you meditate on fear, fear will expand. If you meditate on what you lack, you will begin to feel empty, even when you are surrounded by blessings. But if you meditate on the greatness of God, peace will multiply, clarity will expand, strength will grow, and even in hardship, your soul will stand firm. Some of you need to declare war on your thought life today. You've been too tolerant, too permissive, too gentle with things that are silently stealing your power. You've allowed your mind to become a storage room for negativity, for opinions that were never God's, for comparisons that suffocate your uniqueness. But it ends now. You are not a servant to random thoughts. You are not at the mercy of your memories. You are not a slave to the patterns of the past. You are free to choose. And when you choose God, you choose clarity. You choose strength. You choose discipline. There is power in the disciplined mind. Not the mind that tries to control every outcome, but the mind that surrenders to the one who controls all things. The mind that says, even when I don't understand, I will not be shaken. Even when I don't see the way, I will not be afraid. because my thoughts are grounded in trust, not in circumstance. And that kind of mind is unstoppable. That kind of mind walks into storms without trembling. That kind of mind faces betrayal without breaking. That kind of mind walks away from temptation without regret. That kind of mind chooses silence over gossip, purpose over distraction, and peace over chaos. Because it is trained, it is submitted, it is filled, not with the noise of the world, but with the stillness of God. But hear me, a God-filled mind is not born, it is built. Built through daily remembrance. Built through choosing stillness over noise. Built through refusing to think thoughts that go against the very character of the one who made you. You must become the gatekeeper of your own mind. You must stand guard at the entrance of your thoughts, asking every idea, every emotion, every whisper, "Are you from God?" And if the answer is no, do not let it enter. You are not weak. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. If your mind has been a battlefield of torment, it can become a fortress of peace. If your thoughts have been wild and scattered, they can be tamed by the hand of God. But you must decide. You must stop waiting for change to fall from the sky and start building the mental life that aligns with your highest calling. Because at the end of it all, you will not be judged for what passed through your mind, but for what you allowed to stay. You will not be held accountable for every thought that knocked at your door, but for which ones you invited in. So let this be your declaration. No more vacancy for fear, no room for bitterness, no place for shame. My mind is sacred ground, and only the truth of God will be allowed to stay. And when you live like that, when you think like that, when you breathe like that, then even when the world around you is falling apart, your mind will be still, your thoughts will remain steadfast, and your life will become a vessel not of chaos, but of power, clarity, peace, and unwavering faith in the one who gave you that mind to begin with. Because when your thoughts belong to God, your life will no longer be tossed by the waves, it will be carried by the wind of divine purpose. There comes a time in every person's life when they must confront the hidden thoughts that have quietly shaped every decision, every response, every belief. You see, it is not what happens around you that defines you, it is what happens within you. A storm outside may rage with thunder and chaos, but it is the storm within your own mind that determines whether you stand or fall. And that storm, yes, that invisible, silent force, must be brought under the authority of God. Let me speak to your soul now, not with soft words, but with fire. You were never created to be ruled by emotions, enslaved by fear, or deceived by whispers of doubt. You were created to think with purpose. You were created to reason with truth. You were created to imagine in righteousness. Your thoughts were never meant to be random winds. You were called to harness them like sails that carry you in the direction of divine purpose. And yet, how many of us walk around with minds that are cluttered, confused, and condemned? Thoughts that replay the same hurt over and over like a broken record. Thoughts that anticipate the worst instead of expecting the best. Thoughts that keep bringing up what should have been forgotten. Let me tell you, when you allow your mind to become a graveyard of past wounds, you bury your future under the weight of what no longer belongs. God did not bring you this far for you to be trapped by thoughts you never invited. And even if you did invite them today, you have the power to dismiss them. Thoughts of envy, release them. Thoughts of vengeance, bury them. Thoughts that scream, "You are not enough," silence them with the echo of truth. God has given you everything you need for the season you're in. Now listen to me clearly. One of the greatest signs of spiritual maturity is not how loud you pray or how many words you know. It's how well you manage your thoughts when no one is watching. That's the true test. That's the battlefield of integrity. Can you guide your thinking when the lights are off? When no one is applauding? When life doesn't make sense? When your plans fall apart? Because those quiet hours of mental discipline are where God watches to see who is ready for more. And you? Yes, you are being called to more. But more doesn't start in your hands, it starts in your mind. A bigger assignment requires a stronger mind. A new blessing demands a new thought pattern. You cannot carry the weight of a great calling with the thoughts of a weak spirit. You must be transformed from the inside out. You must unlearn what this world has taught you about fear, about failure, about worth. And you must learn to think as one who belongs to God, who is led by God, and who is answerable to God alone. You've got to stop renting out your mind to opinions that were never appointed by the Creator. What someone said about you in anger, that's not truth. What your past tried to convince you of, that's not your identity. What failure told you about your future, that's not your prophecy. The only voice that deserves authority in your thinking is the voice of God, because He alone knows the full picture of who you are. But let's take it deeper. Your thoughts are not only shaping your own life, they are influencing everyone around you. The way you think affects the way you speak, and the way you speak affects what you build. A negative mind produces toxic words. A fearful mind projects insecurity. But a mind filled with God breathes life into every room it enters. Your children are learning from your thoughts, even if they never hear them. Your spouse, your friends, your coworkers, they feel what your mind carries. And when your thoughts are rooted in God, you don't just bless yourself, you bless the atmosphere around you. That's why you must protect your inner life more than your outer image. Don't be more concerned with how you look than how you think. The real work is invisible. The real transformation happens in silence, in solitude, in surrender. And let me tell you, surrendering your thoughts to God is not weakness. It's the greatest strength you can ever walk in. Because a surrendered mind is a dangerous mind. Dangerous to darkness, dangerous to fear, dangerous to every lie that tried to write your story. And make no mistake, your mind is writing your story every day. Your thoughts are the ink, your choices are the pen, your future is the page. What are you writing? What kind of legacy are you shaping with your thoughts? Are you building a narrative of defeat or of discipline, of excuses or of excellence, of doubt or of destiny? Because every chapter of your life begins with the silent dialogue happening in your head. Now I know, some of you have been thinking the wrong thoughts for so long, you're wondering, can I ever be free? And the answer is yes. Freedom begins the moment you stop agreeing with lies. You don't need a new life, you need a new mindset. You don't need the world to change. You need your focus to shift. Start speaking to your thoughts. Challenge them. Examine them. Ask, does this thought lead me closer to God's purpose or further away? Does it lift me or limit me? And if it doesn't serve the truth, throw it out. You don't owe any loyalty to a lie. You are not at the mercy of your upbringing. You are not chained to generational thinking. You are not destined to repeat the same patterns. You are a thinker crafted by God, and with His guidance you can renew your mind. You can break the cycle. You can rewire the way you see, the way you feel, the way you respond. And when your mind is renewed, your life will be restored. But listen, renewal requires repetition. You can't think one good thought and expect transformation. You must train your thoughts daily. Feed your mind truth the way you feed your body food. You don't eat once a week and expect to live. You eat daily. So feed your mind daily. Strengthen it in the morning with gratitude. Guard it in the afternoon with focus. Purify it at night with reflection. The mind that is constantly returning to God will not drift into destruction. Don't just let your thoughts pass through. Interrogate them. Discipline them. Speak to them. And yes, even dismiss them when they do not honor the God who formed your spirit from the dust and breathed into you purpose before you were even known by this world. That's who you are. That's who your mind belongs to. And no lie, no fear, no shadow can claim what was created by the light. So I challenge you now. Elevate your thinking. Raise the standard. Rise above the noise. Remove every thought that keeps you small. Because God didn't make you to live in cycles of confusion. He made you to walk in clarity, in strength, in courage, in excellence. But it all starts here, in the unseen, sacred ground of your thoughts. When you change what you allow yourself to think, you change who you allow yourself to become. And when your thoughts are surrendered to God, there is no limit to the life you will live, the battles you will win, and the peace that will overflow in everything you do. Your mind, once the battlefield, can become the sanctuary, not through force, but through faith, not through striving, but through surrender, not through fear, but through the quiet, unshakable remembrance of the one who holds your every thought in his hand. So walk forward now, not in confusion, but in clarity, not in hesitation, but in boldness. Not in weakness, but with a renewed mind anchored in truth, filled with God, and focused on everything you are destined to become. When the fire of faith begins to burn within you, it touches even the deepest corners of your thoughts. And I tell you today, if your thoughts are not under the rule of God, your life never will be. You can fast until your body grows weak, you can pray until your knees are sore, but if your mind remains unchecked, the enemy will find his way through the cracks. For the battlefield of your soul is not fought in your hands, it is fought in your head. It is in that secret place, where no one but God can hear your silent battles, that the greatest victories or defeats occur. And that is where you must rise up and say, enough is enough. I will not be ruled by fear. I will not be driven by lust. I will not be chained by bitterness. I will not be tormented by shame. My mind belongs to God. The one who learns to submit every thought to God becomes unstoppable. Not because they are strong, but because they walk with the one who cannot be shaken. Do you understand the power of one thought submitted to God? It's like placing a tiny seed in the soil of the Almighty's will. One righteous thought can grow into a destiny. One disciplined mind can break generational curses. One faithful decision can shift the course of a family, a city, even a nation. That's why the enemy fights you in your thoughts, because he knows if you ever become disciplined in your thinking, your life will become a weapon of divine purpose. When your thoughts are full of chaos, you must call upon God with urgency, not casually, not passively, but like a warrior in battle. You must rise early and speak to your mind. Today, I command my thoughts to align with the will of God. I reject every lie. I silence every voice that is not from Him. I take back what fear has stolen. I recover what doubt has broken. I think what God says I can think. And you hold that position even when temptations scream, even when anxiety knocks, even when depression whispers your name. Because you are not who your thoughts say you are. You are who God says you are. And God does not speak in confusion. God does not speak in hopelessness. God does not speak in despair. God speaks life. God speaks peace. God speaks strength. And when He speaks, everything else must bow. Some of you are living under mental torment because you have allowed too many voices into your mind. You scroll endlessly. You compare constantly. You listen to gossip. You digest negativity. And then you wonder why you have no clarity, no focus, no peace. Friend, the mind cannot thrive on poison. You cannot feed yourself fear and expect to walk in courage. You cannot feast on filth and expect to walk in purity. You must protect your mental gates with the intensity of a guard protecting a king. Your eyes, your ears, your conversations, they are all doors. Be watchful over them. Guard them with prayer. Guard them with intention. Because once a thought enters, it desires to take root, and once it takes root, it bears fruit. So ask yourself, what fruit is your mind producing today? Is your mind producing patience or panic? Is it bearing faith or fear? Is it yielding love or hatred? These are the indicators of who sits on the throne of your thoughts. And if it is not God, then it is time to evict every other voice. Don't delay it. Don't excuse it. Don't say, well, this is just how I've always thought. No, if it doesn't honor God, it doesn't belong. Your mind must become a sacred place, a temple where the voice of God echoes louder than every doubt, louder than every trauma, louder than every past mistake. You cannot change your past, but by God, you can redeem your mind today. There is nothing more dangerous than a believer who knows how to master their thoughts. Because such a person does not react to life, they respond to God. When bad news comes, their mind doesn't spiral into panic, it runs to prayer. When offense arises, they do not stew in bitterness, they lift it to the throne and let God handle it. When temptation lingers, they do not feed it, they flee and fill their minds with what is pure. That kind of discipline doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you make a covenant with your mind. When you say, "My thoughts are not for sale, my mind is not an open market, I belong to God, and so does every part of me, even the parts no one can see." And I say this with love, but with truth. You cannot claim to walk with God while entertaining thoughts that oppose Him. Light and darkness cannot dwell in the same space. You must choose this day whom your mind will serve. Will it serve the fears of your upbringing? Will it serve the traumas of your past? Will it serve the lies of culture? Or will it serve the truth of the one who formed you in your mother's womb and calls you His own? You must train your thoughts to move in rhythm with God. That takes time. It takes prayer. It takes silence. Sometimes it takes fasting. It takes cutting off distractions. It takes replacing music that stirs your flesh with words that stir your soul. It takes meditating on God's power, not your problem. That is how you become strong, not by denying your thoughts, but by disciplining them, by placing them under divine authority. Every time fear comes, you declare, "This fear will not dictate my day." Every time anger rises, you say, "This emotion will not control my actions." Every time discouragement lingers, you proclaim, "This heaviness will not determine my future." You speak, you pray, and you push your mind back into divine order. This is not mental games, this is spiritual warfare. And the mind is the front line. But I am here to tell you that God has not left you defenseless. You have been given strength from above. You have been given wisdom beyond your years. You have been given a shield of protection if you will only rise up and claim it. Don't wait for someone else to fight your mental battles. Stand up and say, "God, I take authority over my thoughts and I align them with your truth. No more torment, no more chaos, no more double-mindedness. My mind is yours." Because when your thoughts become obedient to God, your life becomes a vessel of peace. Your decisions become clearer. Your relationships become healthier. Your purpose becomes brighter. And you begin to move, not like someone who is guessing, but like someone who is guided. That is the power of a renewed mind. That is the result of choosing, every day, every hour, every moment, to surrender your thoughts to the one who knows all, sees all, and holds your life in His hands. Keep your heart soft, but your mind sharp. Be gentle in spirit, but fierce in focus. Love others, but never let their opinions override the voice of God in your mind. You cannot control every situation, but by God's help, you can control how you think about it. And when your thinking changes, your life will follow. So fix your thoughts where your hope comes from. Speak to your mind like a commander speaks to soldiers. Tell it to stand in alignment with truth. Remind it daily that it belongs to the one who created you. Keep God at the center, and your thoughts will begin to reflect His glory. And once your thoughts are right with God, everything else will fall into place. My beloved brothers and sisters, if there is one truth that must remain etched into the very fiber of your soul, it is this: your thoughts are the gateway to your destiny. As a man thinks, so he becomes. The battles you face outwardly are often the result of the wars you've ignored inwardly. But today, I declare with unwavering boldness, you do not have to be a prisoner of your thoughts. You do not have to live under the tyranny of worry, fear, lust, bitterness, or despair. For God, the Almighty, the one who formed you in the womb and breathed life into your spirit, has given you the divine authority to take control of your thoughts. This is not just psychology, it is spiritual warfare. And you are not alone in this battle. God is with you, guiding you, strengthening you, lifting you when you fall, and correcting you when you go astray. When your mind is filled with confusion, turn your focus to God. When fear comes creeping in like a shadow in the night, remind yourself that God is your light and salvation. Whom shall you fear? When the voices in your head scream defeat, shout back with the truth that God is your victory. When temptations rise like waves, plant your feet on the rock of God's guidance and say, I will not be moved. Do not wait for your thoughts to change on their own. Speak life into your mind. Speak light into your darkness. Speak order into your chaos. Speak truth over the lies. Because when your thoughts align with the will of God, nothing can stand against you, not even yourself. Let God be the filter of your thoughts. Let God be the standard of your thinking. Let every idea, every plan, every desire pass through the fire of His truth. If it cannot withstand the heat of God's holiness, then it has no place in your mind. Because your mind is not a garbage bin for the world's poison. It is the sanctuary where God's wisdom must dwell. You may have struggled in the past. You may have failed again and again. But today is a new day. God's mercy is new this very morning. You can begin again. You can rise again. You can reclaim the authority over your thoughts. Not because you are strong, but because God is stronger. Not because you are perfect, but because God is perfectly faithful. So go now and guard your mind like a fortress. Fill it with remembrance of God. Fill it with gratitude. Fill it with patience. Fill it with discipline. And above all, fill it with faith, the kind of faith that moves mountains, breaks chains, and defeats every lie of the enemy. Let your thoughts become a dwelling place for truth. Let your thoughts become a weapon of righteousness. Let your thoughts glorify God. Because when your thoughts are right, your life will follow. Stand firm. Walk in power. And never forget, you are not what you feel. You are not what you fear. You are what God declares you to be. And He declares you victorious. He declares you sound in mind. He declares you capable of rising above. So take hold of your thoughts. Take hold of your life. And give it all to God.